Washington's clear thinking headquarters. The Morning Majority, 5 to 9 on 630 WMAL.
6:07 on WMAL. Brian Neiman, Joe DeGeneva, our legal expert in the house this morning. Still to come on the show, we have Carolyn Glick at the 8 o'clock hour, senior columnist, Jerusalem Post. We'll get into the president's big speech on the Middle East and going back to the 67 borders with Israel. Alan Dershowitz scheduled to be on the program as well, author of The Case for Israel, Harvard law professor. We'll talk with him hopefully at 7:36. Peter Mocici joins us now, economist, University of Maryland professor, of course. We had him on the show yesterday, and he's back again. Morning, Peter. How are you? So, let's get into job numbers, because we didn't really talk about that too much yesterday, and I'm always curious about where this thing is going with the unemployment rate. Now, obviously, we're going to have to wait till the first Friday of the next month in order to get the unemployment number. But for the second week in a row, unemployment benefits, a Labor Department report shows 409,000 initial jobless claims. That seems like an extraordinary amount.
Well, there's an enormous amount of churning in the job market. You know, we create maybe a couple of 100,000 jobs a month right now. But we'll see, 5 times that many initial jobless claims. The fact is, a lot of people leave their jobs, a lot of people get laid off, fired, what have you, and a lot of people get jobs. It's the net that we talk about at the first of the month.
So explain how this. I can't wrap my head around it, and I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed. So these are jobless claims. So there are 409,000 initial jobless claims filed.
Yeah, that's the first
last
time you
week.
go to the unemployment office.
Okay, so 409,000. Yet we're only creating how many jobs a month?
A couple 100,000 jobs a month. Basically, according to that number, we are getting about 2 million people a month filing an initial unemployment claim, and we're getting about 2.2 million people hired. So at the first of the month, when you see the new jobs created, it's the difference between those that have been hired and those that have been laid off or otherwise discharged.
All right, but overall, how weak is the job market right now?
It's still pretty tepid. This is not a strong recovery. At this point, we should be creating maybe net 500,000 jobs a month. We need to create something in the range of 360,000, 380,000 to get unemployment down to 6% over 3 years. So we're not performing. This is not a strong recovery. And by the way, Mr. Bush's recoveries weren't all that strong either, though they did create more jobs.
Yeah, I was going to say, the unemployment rate during the Bush years, after things started going a little bit in 2003 and onward, they were under or right around 5%, weren't they?
Right, and the average growth rate was only 2.9%. One of the things that distinguishes this recovery from the last one is manufacturing's done better, housing's done worse, but the manufacturing that's doing better because of the high cost of health care, we're learning how to make things with hardly any people. I'd like to take you to a steel mill if you want to see a ghost town. Hardly anybody there. It's amazing what can be done today in high-value manufacturing, which gives you a lot of growth, without a lot of people. Likewise, a lot of the growth that we're recording are just bigger salaries on Wall Street.
Well, I was going to ask you about during the Bush years, because I've always believed that the reason why that we had so many jobs is because of the housing market, because there was that bubble essentially, and people were taking money out of their house, they were spending money. Our savings rate was negative at one point during that decade, so people spending a lot of money on products, and so the service sectors were doing well. Am I accurate when I say these things?
You're absolutely accurate, but that doesn't mean we have to grow through housing. We've had periods in American history where housing has led the recovery and where housing has lagged. We can do well even with people not saving very much, though it's not the preferred route. And I like to view it as Thomas Jefferson growth, because he was always spending more than he had, the great American. But we don't need housing to lead us out. But what we do need are better international trade numbers. Exports are growing, but so are imports. The real secret to making America grow is to tap all our domestic energy. We are an energy-rich country that chooses not to use it, and that is causing us to send so much money abroad for oil that we don't need to send. Also, our trade with China is so distorted. That's why they look so smart and we look so dumb. If we got our trade with China straightened out, America would be prospering again.
Peter, Joe DeGeneva here. What's this I hear about Goldman Sachs having a little bit of a problem?
Well, as you know, Galleon, the Raj for prosecution set all kinds of new standards in white-collar searching it out, and the Justice Department is somewhat emboldened. Goldman Sachs has long been accused of being very shady with its investors. Essentially, its domestic side shorting the market while it pushes mortgage-backed securities on its clients, and they're investigating its packaging of mortgage-backed securities. I can't tell you the number of people I know who in some way or another got nailed by some kind of sophisticated security during the bubble and burst. And so they're investigating that, and I expect that we're going to see more prosecutions coming.
So is this investigation out of the Southern District in New York or Main Justice? What do you hear?
Well, it's out of it's out of the Justice Department, so it must be the Southern District in New York. I mean, it's what you would expect.
The housing market is still battling to bounce back. Where is the housing market? Has it hit its low, and when will we know if it's hit its low?
Well, we won't know it's hit its low until a year after it's bottomed, because we had a recovery in prices last spring, and then it faltered. We are not likely to have any kind of robust recovery in housing until we work off all these foreclosures, which have been held up by Robogate. Simply, we have several million houses we don't need, perhaps more. People buying second homes as investments, just like they speculated on stocks.
Right.
And with 9% unemployment, fewer young people are entering the housing market, so it's going to take longer to work off that supply. It's like when you had all those Chryslers parked on the Great Lakes out there before the bankruptcy. You got to sell those Jeeps before you can make new ones, except that houses take a lot longer to work off than Jeeps do.
So when the new housing numbers come on, that is brand new construction, and the numbers are anemic, that is actually probably in the best interest of the economy and the housing market for those numbers to be down?
I think it is in the best interest of the U.S. economy to do less of some things. Build fewer houses, import less stuff. I think those are borrow less. Those are things that would be good. It's like anything else. If you're running a baseball team, you don't go into the season, you have 25 players with 4 shortstops. You go in with 2 shortstops. We were over-investing in housing. That was a mistake, because that's also investment that could be in other productive activities, creating jobs. Once the house is up, you live in it. It doesn't create any jobs. You build a factory, it creates jobs.
All right, last question for you. The stock market is doing pretty well. I
love my market. I love the market.
We had this discussion not too long ago, because everyone was saying, well, look how much oil has gone up during the Obama administration. I said, yeah, well, look what the stock market's done in the Obama administration as well.
Some people say I'm throwing bulls. Some people say I'm bullish. I like to think it's the latter.
All right, but is it real? I mean, the NASDAQ is close to the all-time high
Ever meet a poor Dutchman? Absolutely not. What goes on in Holland? Not very much. The Dutch have been investing around the world for the last 3 centuries and getting richer than anyone else. That's what America's companies are doing now. The Fortune 500 earns more than 50% of its profits abroad. That's very, very significant. So even when we're not doing great, but China's doing great, General Electric is smiling.
Yeah.
I mean, they're always smiling up there, at GE. And that really follows for most Fortune 200 companies, certainly most Fortune 500 companies. And with that kind of potential profitability abroad, as long as the U.S. economy manages to keep its growth above 2.5% or 3%, which is likely, they will do well. And so will the U.S. stock market.
All right, Peter. Good to talk to you as always. Thanks for your time.
Take care.
Peter Mocici, University of Maryland economist. As you say, the NASDAQ's at an all-time high. The all-time high was back in 1999 or whatever, when it was 5,000.
Right.
But I believe it's close to the number that it was during its peak in 2007. So, I mean, the NASDAQ has certainly bounced almost all the way back from its high during the post.com boom, essentially. Right. And, what was it? The Dow was at 14,000 at one point. But it's, it's close. It's not that